Okay, so what we want to do now is we're basically going to hear from the different River Network churches, just a 2-minute testimony, so we just get a feel of what God is doing around the churches there. And it's always encouraging just to get a little bit of an update from different churches. So we're going to start today with Cheltenham Blackheath Christian Fellowship, and that's going to be... Steve is going to share with us. Just before that, just to remind you, especially if you're on the Facebook live stream, that a link's going to be posted now. You don't need to go on quite yet, but in a minute, we're going to go in and we're going to have a prayer time in the Zoom rooms. Those of us in the building here will just pray together here, okay? But there'll be a little prayer. But it'd be good if you can, if you're on Facebook now, if you can go and just join in the live stream, then we get a bit of prayer with people across the country as well, which would be fantastic. Okay, so Steve, be great to hear what's going on right now with Cheltenham Blackheath Christian Fellowship and all the outreach and things you've been doing. Over to you, Steve.
Okay, hello and greetings from Cheltenham Blackheath Christian Fellowship. And I'm Steve, this is my wife Susan. And just to let you know, we've been doing Bible studies and Zoom services. We started off doing YouTube stuff, but we decided we need to meet live, so we started doing it by Zoom. And Susan.
And we've also done some Sunday night Bible studies. And more recently, during the last month, a few ladies in the church have been stirred. And one of our members has set up a weekly Zoom ladies prayer meeting, which has turned out to be completely dynamic and unmissable and really encouraging. So we look forward to meeting each week to pray. And we feel that we're being led to pray more for the nations and so on, not just for more local matters. During the lockdown, we've endeavoured to, each time we have a grocery delivery, to give away a New Testament and a Hope magazine. We've managed to do that to everyone but one who refused. And we often talk to the delivery men about the job they used to do, because often they haven't been working for that supermarket because they've had to change their job in lockdown. And we've tried to spend time getting to know them. And I want to share 2 examples. One of them was a young man who said he recognised me. Now, bearing in mind, I've remarried and moved. I have a different name and address. And yet he recognised me as a mum at the school gate. And he was in the class, the first class of my eldest daughter 25 years ago. And when he said he recognised me, I offered him a Bible and he readily took it. We didn't talk longer, but I felt like that was a divine appointment. And then one week we saw a local funeral parlour mentioned on the local news, and they highlighted the work they'd done in lockdown. But one of the members of staff said, although I work with death, I'm scared of dying. So I felt that I should write them a letter and go and deliver more Hope magazines and Bibles to them, which I did. And then the next day, our grocery delivery man was an ex-funeral operative. And it felt like the Lord was just bringing him, and he again accepted a Bible. So we planted those as seeds of hope in these times.
Just towards the end of the lockdown, I went out and did some street mission with my organisation, Open Air Campaigners. Amazing, God went ahead of us. There was a lady met with a Bible. She was reading the Bible. A friend of mine spoke to her, said, do you understand what you're reading? And she said, no. And he explained it to her and began to, and then she had to go. And later on, during the same day, of all the millions of people in London, he met this lady again and was able to talk to her further. Another friend of mine, Peter, spoke to a French couple. He speaks French, and amazingly, they spoke French. So amazing the way God brought those together. And then just the last one, a guy spoke to me from an office block. He'd seen me like miles up in the air because he was decorating up there, came down, and he recognised one of my colourful suits, and he immediately wanted to speak to me about what we were doing. And amazingly, his wife was a Christian, and he wasn't. And he said, I still pray with her, though, because it's a kind thing to do. And we had a great gospel conversation. So God went ahead of us in everything we did during that week. And that's about it. And Susan's just going to finish off.
We realise the Lord's involved in every detail of our lives, and he always goes ahead of us. So I hope that encourages you, and God bless.
Wow, thank you so much. That is so exciting to hear what God's doing. And there does seem to be a hunger, doesn't there, at the moment, for people to hear the gospel. So there is a real hunger. So excellent, great encouragement from Cheltenham Blackheath Christian Fellowship. And we're now going to go over to Houghton Regis Community Church. And Peter and Rachel, depending, are going to just share with us what's going on over there at the moment. So good to have you with us, Peter, Rachel. Brilliant.
Good morning, Alex. Do you want me to just update on Dayspring Hub first and then do Houghton Regis?
Yeah, that's great, because Dayspring Hub can't be here today, so they're going to, so Peter will just share about that first. Go for it, Peter.
So hello everyone from Houghton Regis Community Church, and also I'm just going to give you a bit of an update on Dayspring Hub, Olu and Naomi Daniel and the work they're doing there. They wanted to really thank and praise God for the past year. Some of you may be aware they actually won a BBC Radio's 3 Counties Award for their community work, so they want to give God the praise and glory for that. They've been meeting predominantly online. They do Zoom meetings followed by a Facebook Live back into a Zoom meeting for their fellowship, and lots of other stuff online they've been trying to increase over the years. They've become more familiar with it. Their main sort of thing they're praying and looking into at the moment is what they do when the rules change and they can go back to meeting. They had been meeting in a Hampton hotel in a conference room, so they're now considering whether that's where they should return, whether they should be looking for other premises. So if you want to keep them in your prayers, that's their main prayer point at the moment, is where they should be returning to. There's a real hunger from the people that have been meeting with them online to meet in person, which is great, and they're just seeking God on where that should be. So do please keep them in your prayers. They'll greatly appreciate that. From a Houghton Regis Community Church point of view, I think as with everybody, we were a bit thrown at March last year when we were told you can't sort of meet up, and we've had to adapt to the challenges. We've actually remained online this whole time. We contemplated going back in person early this year, but decided to continue online. So our Sunday gatherings are a Zoom meeting. It's very interactive and discussion based, and as such, we've actually changed slightly how we're providing teaching as a church. We're now releasing teaching midweek, a pre-recorded teaching that people can listen to, discuss in small groups, sort of get into it a bit more during the week, and then when it comes together on a Sunday, we have a very short recap and then time to really discuss it and its application as a fellowship. And that's been a real blessing to us. It's allowed a lot more people probably to get involved with that discussion and interacting with the word and where we're journeying as a fellowship. So that's been a real blessing to us, obviously, despite the challenges of not being able to fellowship in person. From a worship perspective, it's also allowed more people to take a lead in worship, because we haven't necessarily needed to have them as musicians or vocalists. They can just choose songs and stuff that we can listen to, reflect on, worship in different ways through craft and activities and dancing and things. So that's been a real blessing in terms of our Sunday gatherings. It's been slightly harder for the kids to remain involved. So we've actually done a bi-weekly kids Zoom as a separate thing, where they've tended to have a teaching and interaction related to the similar themes that we've been doing on a Sunday. A lot of you will be aware that Houghton Regis Community Church have a shop. It's an arts and crafts coffee shop called Jules, and that's our main focus and sort of centre point, I guess, within the community in terms of interacting. Because it is a shop, that's understandably been open and closed through all the different restrictions. But what it has enabled us to do is to be a source for food bags. And we've had so much generosity, both from within the church and external to the church, even from just the local community, people donating food. And so we've been able to offer that. At one point it was twice a week, and then it's dropped down to once a week. But that's been a real opportunity to bless the community. And then obviously there's not a lot of interaction that can happen over those times, but there's lots of similar people coming in. We're really hopeful that now that Jules has reopened as a shop and to be able to start serving the coffees and things again, that some of those people will return for, I guess, more of an in-depth time and opportunity to fellowship and grow to know more about Jesus and through the work that we're doing. Final thing really to mention about is how anyone knows the area, Houghton Regis is expanding massively with building works, and we're linked in with the other local churches and have just funded a new community worker who's come in to work on those new estates. Who knows what sort of worshiping fellowship group that's going to create, but we're committed to supporting that financially and prayerfully. He started probably about a month ago now, so we've had him come along to one of our Zoom meetings, and we're really excited for how that's going to go. So obviously the challenges that everyone's had, but lots of positives too.
That's absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much, Peter. That's amazing. Yeah, it's great to hear how, you're stepping out and all that's happening there, and that you are having an effect, on the community as well. So that's brilliant. Okay, now over to LNC. And I'm going to hand over to Anthony and Sharon, our newlyweds.
Hi guys, so as said, we're Anthony and Sharon. We've been coming here for a few years now, and I just want to say how much warmth and love there is in this church. We were welcomed in very warmly, and we really thank God for that, because we are a kingdom family. As LNC, we are building kingdom family, and we've grown so much being here, whether that's through discipleship with the Blue Book. We have about 10 people join that each time we do it, and that's really good. It looks at how we're saved, baptism, spiritual disciplines, things like that. It really helps us to grow in the basis of the faith, and that has helped us to grow and flourish. And from there, we've also had amazing pastoral care from the leaders of the church as well, who's really welcomed us and mothered and fathered us as well. So great regards to Pastor Alex and Pastor Dorcas, Mama D and Papa Alex. We love you. Yeah, we've grown in ministry and family life as well, and we know that personally, but we also know that as a congregation too. We've seen so many people grow since being here in gifts and seeing family come to know the Lord, and we know that personally in our lives too. We've seen my dad encounter Jesus, and through live stream as well, he's engaging in church more, and yeah, we're growing in our gifts and seeing so much salvations as well through the live stream. We got married last year through lockdown, and that was streamed as well on YouTube, and Joshua Afre has been very diligent in making that all happen. Shout out to Joshua. And from there we've just grown in different areas of ministry life, such as children's work, and yeah, the preachers have been amazing, and worship has been really powerful too. Yeah.
So as well as building kingdom family, this is our mission statement: building kingdom family and reaching generations. So I just wanted to share a bit about how generations are being reached. So we've got women's mentoring, which has been amazing. I'll hand it back to Anthony to talk about men's mentoring. But we've been looking at Lioness Arising, a series of videos and a book by Lisa Bevere, and it's basically about us being dangerously awake as women, knowing how influential we can be and stepping out in the identity that Jesus has called us to live in. And we also have our LNC youth. So Anthony and I have the privilege of looking after our young people. And currently it's all about instilling God skills and life skills, so for godliness and life. And as part of God skills, we're looking at a series of how to be dangerously influential as Christians out in school, out with friends, out in families, as well as looking at our food for thought topics. You may have heard it in the notices, where we've with the youth talked about why does the devil exist, and that was a heavy topic, but there was such engaging discussions, and it was amazing to hear them say that, oh, I normally feel shy talking about this, but it's been amazing that I can actually share, and this is what I think, and now I know what I can say to my friends when they ask me this stuff. So it's amazing to have those chats. And sorry? Oh yes, I mentioned that Food for Thought as a church, we do it together. So we do it with the youth after. Yeah, definitely. And Becca and I, so Becca's our children's ministry, wonderful lady. We love her. So we have pear tree parent and toddler group. So during lockdown last year, so it started off in Feb, and then it just turned into WhatsApp conversations of, hey, here's some things you can do with the toddlers. Here's some fun ways to engage in lockdown. And then Becca came over to our wonderful LNC, and I've handed over leadership to her. And now we're seeing up to 15 parents coming with their toddlers, and it's been incredible. It's become a community of parents looking out for one another, like, hey, I'm really looking for shoes. I don't know where to get them. Oh, I know. Da, da, da. And we just see the WhatsApp erupting, and we're just sitting back as leaders like, wow, God, look at what you're doing. And we have had the toddlers having their first words, first waves, first walks. And now we have a waiting list. So we're really excited for what God's doing. And in terms of reaching generations outside of our church community, we've had the Wellbeing Clinic, which has been online through Zoom on Thursdays to basically offer prayer, guidance, and prophecy, and just to support those out there who've been so, we've all been impacted by COVID and lockdown, and we're all needing a shoulder to cry on and a listening ear. So it's been amazing to see those ministered to, break through, and a lot of powerful things happening, just with people being open and saying, hey, I've had a tough time and I need someone to talk it through with. So I'm going to hand over to Anthony to share a bit about the children's ministry and men's mentoring.
Yeah, so as Sharon said, Becca is our new children's minister, and she has helped the children's ministry grow so much. We're looking at Agents of Yield, which has been really fun to do, and our children's ministry team has grown too. That's been really fun and powerful actually as well. And men's mentoring, we've been looking at growing in wisdom as men, and that's been really powerful to just sit together as men, finding that strength in unity and being able to just encourage each other, share wisdom together, and just really be accountable to one another as well. We've been going into small groups and just being like, how do we grow in this area? Help me stay accountable to this to meet my goals. And that's been really good. And as said earlier as well, with Food for Thought, we've been doing that as the church, and that's really helped us to grow in unity too, even if there is disagreements here and there. It's helped us to really tackle these issues together. So we've really grown as a kingdom family, and we've also been outreaching to others too. So it's been an amazing journey.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anthony and Sharon. And now we're going to hear from Malcolm at Webburn Community Church. See, I didn't say Way, I said Webburn, Malcolm.
Oh, well done, Alex. Greetings and blessings from Webburn Community Church. As with every other church, pretty much we've been meeting online since March, just as Peter had mentioned. On Zoom, we've worked very hard to make it interactive. So our style has changed a little bit. We're kind of becoming almost like the Anglican style with responsive prayers and that's working really well. We have a style where, with our sermon preachers, we sort of have a couple of times a month where internal people are speaking from our congregation, but then we always have visiting speakers. And having Zoom has allowed us to have speakers from, we've had Alex a number of times, but we've had people from the States and even from New Zealand. So it's really opened up what we've been able to do. Another really good thing about being on Zoom actually is that we've had people regularly attending our services. So in fact, even one of the people here today, Joseph, has been he's someone who we support. Joseph is in India. He's been supporting and attending our church about the last 6 months or more, and it's been fantastic to build relationships like that. Overall, as a church this year, we've felt that kind of an overall theme is walking with Jesus and just trying to understand what that means. How do we walk? Do we have to walk? We've got to know where he's going, which means we've got to spend time and listen. On our Wednesday nights, very early on, it became clear that we needed some sort of social interaction, if you like. So we alternate. 1 week we have a Bible study, and the next week we have a kind of a social one where it's a quiz or just talking, and that's worked very well. So as a fellowship, we've been working very hard at supporting each other, keeping each other, and we've seen God strengthening us and growing us. So.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I wasn't sure if you'd just taken a pause there, Malcolm, or you were going to continue on that. That's great. Thank you so much. That's so encouraging to hear just about the expansion and the growth taking place. And it's amazing, isn't it, when you go on to the virtual world, that other people have been able, the shop window has opened, hasn't it now, to the kingdom of God, and other people that wouldn't have known before are getting to know. So that's so encouraging to hear. Thank you very much for that. And finally, last but not least, Way Christian Fellowship, and Hazel is going to share with us from Way Christian Fellowship what's happening there. Good to see you, Hazel.
Good morning and welcome from the Way Christian Fellowship. In Psalm 95 verse 2, it says, "Let us come before the Lord with thanksgiving." So as a fellowship, we are grateful that we've been able to, like Malcolm has said, we've been able to invite people from all around the world. We've had Manchester, Wales, Jersey, America, New Zealand, and London, which we wouldn't normally have been able to have. We're so grateful to God also because He's supplied jobs for us. My husband was made redundant overnight last year, and even though there was no jobs on the market, he picked up a new job, which we're very grateful for. We're also grateful that we've been able to give our rent money away. So we as a church decided that our rent money would go away each month, and that's been used to bless people, mostly with food in different countries and in our own, where food has been in short supply. But we're also so grateful for God for His faithfulness to us this year, for His rest and His peace, and that we can stand on His promises. And I love Paul's prayer in Ephesians 3, and I just want to pray this over us as we head into our prayer time together. My response is to get down on my knees before the Father, this magnificent Father who parcels out heaven and earth, and I ask Him to strengthen you by His Spirit, not a brute strength, but a glorious inner strength, that Christ will live in you as you open the door and invite Him in. And I ask Him that with both feet firmly planted on love, that you will be able to take in with all followers of Jesus the extravagant dimensions of God's love, of Christ's love, reaching out and experiencing the breadth, testing its length, plumbing the depths, rising to the heights, living full lives, full in the fullness of God. God can do anything, you know, far more than you could ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. Amen.